Hey, good morning, Pete, North Las Vegas. The two lower rifles are Palmetto State Armories. One of them is a Pretend Dissipator. Next one up is a carbine, but with a mid-length gas system, mid-length handguard. And up here at the top is my Colt Bushmaster 16-inch carbine. So the one on the top is the real deal. So anyway, what are we doing here today? Palmetto State Armory uses these oddball, kind of large oval handguards. They don't quite have the A2 round profile to them, and they're not bad. And when we take these off and take a look at them, I'll show you that they're built pretty decent. I don't know. I don't like the look of them. I like the more traditional A2 profile. If you look at the carbine mid-length, it doesn't look too out of place. But when you get to the rifle here, this almost looks from the side like M4. And then if you look at it from the front or the rear, you can really see the ovalness. And it just, I don't know. I don't care for how they look. That's all it is. It's just a cosmetic thing. These are fine. And like I said, when we get them apart and drill down a little bit, I'll show you that they're not bad handguards. They just look goofy. Okay, so for the dissipator, I'm going to be using an old set of Wyndham Weaponry takeoffs, and that's the Wyndham Weaponry on the bottom. And for the Palmetto carbine mid-length, I'll be using this right here. Okay, so for those of you that aren't familiar with the A2 profile type handguards, you have full length, mid-length, and carbine, as we already talked about. But just to give you an idea of what the rough measurements are, here's the full size, comes in around 12. Here's the mid, comes in around maybe 8 3/4-ish. These aren't exact dimensions, but you get the idea. And the carbine comes in at about, I think the official carbine length is 6 9/16. But don't quote me on any of these numbers. But here's just a general reference. Okay, so something I noticed on the Palmetto, they're using a cap screw to hold the end cap in place, tapped into the front sight base. And on my Wyndham Weaponry, I also have a dissipator, and they just used a roll pin. So we'll give Palmetto State Armory a better grade on how they captured the handguard end cap. It does look like I'm losing a little bit of gas around the actual gas block. And you can kind of see the gas marks on the Palmetto oval handguard here. Okay, so because these ovals are a little bit taller than the standard A2 profile, you can see that on the heat shield, there's really no groove for the gas tube because they don't need it. Whereas if you go on the more traditional A2 profile where they're more round, you can see they had to put a little bit of a slot in there for the gas tube because they're lower profile. These Wyndhams, they glued the heat shield in there. And there's also a tab that comes up and interlocks with the other half to give you a better seal and keep heat from getting onto the polymer, the resin, the fiberglass, the whatever the hell, plastic. So I think that's a little bit better there on the Wyndham Weaponry. And you don't get that on the Palmetto. You actually, when you put these two halves together, you have I don't know what that is, maybe an 1/8, close to a 1/4 inch gap for heat to get into the plastic area. You see the ribbing looks quite a bit different. Okay, so on the right, Wyndham Weaponry, you can see it has quite a few more mounting tabs or tangs, and it seems to be a little bit more beefy. And there's the Palmetto, the oval. You can also see the height difference and why the Palmetto State Armory looks a little bit more clunky on the rifle, in my opinion. So on the Wyndham weaponries, when I twist them, like I grab each end and then kind of twist, these don't move at all. So this is a much more rigid type polymer, plastic, resin, whatever it is. It's much more rigid. The Palmetto State Armory, when you grab both ends and twist a little bit, it moves quite a bit more. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because there's no twist to these, it may mean that, possibly they're a little bit more brittle, more prone to damage, cracking, or whatever. Maybe these have a little bit more give, and that's a good thing. So I can't say, what that means as far as a good thing or a bad thing. My personal preference would be the more rigid, less prone to twisting around. So on the Wyndham weaponry, you can see here, it's the more traditional mil-spec type setup where you have slots and interconnecting ribs, where Palmetto uses buttons and holes. Okay, we ran into a snag. So Operation A2 profile on these Palmetto State Armories isn't going to work. This is your standard A2, and that's as far as I can get it. And there's not really nothing going on back here. The problem is, because this is a mid-length gas system, the top of this low profile is dangerously close to hitting the heat shield. Now, I have another Wyndham weaponry dissipator, but it's a carbine gas system. So the gas block, you can see where the gas block would be if this was set up with a carbine gas system. And that would give you, I think, just enough clearance, because these handguards kind of slowly taper up and get taller in the back. So I think you would have enough clearance if this was a carbine gas system, if I'm making sense here. So let me get my true carbine out of the way here, and we'll take a closer look at what the malfunction is here. Okay, so I don't know how well you can see that, but you can see the top of the gas block is almost hitting the heat shield, that little rib on the inside. It's very, very close. So if I bring this down into position, you can see how far out I am. I'm absolutely convinced that's going to hit. So on this dissipator with the low profile gas block at the mid-length gas system position on this particular Palmetto State Armory with a standard A2 profile handguard, it's not going to work. So we will be going back to the larger oval style Palmetto State Armory, which may be why Palmetto uses these on their mid-length gas systems, their dissipators. Okay, before we end the video, I thought we'd talk a little bit more about the IMI Defense mid-length handguards. If I didn't already mention in the video, these are made in Israel. Will these mid-length handguards work on the mid-length carbine? Yes, they will, because the gas block is actually in the mid-length position. There's nothing under here except the gas tube to interfere with the handguard. So I'm pretty sure there wouldn't be any issues putting these more true A2 profile handguards onto the Palmetto State Armory. But I don't see much reason to go with an A2 style on this when I couldn't get them to work on this, because on the dissipator, like I was mentioning earlier in the video, there's going to be interference between the gas block and the handguard. But anyway, I thought we could just kind of talk about these and take a look at them. And they come with heat shields. They're not glued in. They don't interlock, but these edges meet up pretty nicely. So they're going to keep most of the heat away from the polymer or the plastic. These do have quite a bit of flex. If you grab the ends and twist, They move around a little bit. But as far as the look, the more traditional A2 round profile, these are almost indistinguishable from the Colt as far as the ribbing. This old carbine is well used and impregnated with oils and whatever, but if you look at the ribbing, very, very, very similar. So overall, I would say the IMI is pretty good quality. It uses the more traditional A2 mounting tabs on the front. And you can see where the heat shields meet inside. So even though they don't interlock, they seal off pretty good. So anyway, I think if I remember right, I paid 36 bucks for these, Optics Planet. So this video ended a little quicker than I was hoping for, and things didn't quite work out. But if nothing else, I learned something today, and just thought I'd share it with you. A standard A2 profile handguard on a Palmetto State Armory Dissipator with a mid-length gas system, low-profile gas block. Didn't work on mine. Probably not going to work on yours. Pete, North Las Vegas, over and out.